I recently received an email from a listener who was asking why would their appetite be suppressed substantially and why would there be a rapid weight loss in 1 week? Let's take a look at this great question. The email that came from a client who lives in the Southeast, and even though the temperatures were getting warm, his appetite got completely squashed to the point where just the thought of food made him literally sick to his stomach. And as I said in the intro, he lost over 6 pounds in 1 week. And he was wondering, is that normal? And the answer is unequivocally no. Now, when you're looking at the suppression of appetite, there's a couple elements that will definitely suppress appetite. High temperatures, elevated heart rate. With a high temperature, a lot of times comes high humidity. And when you put temperature with high heart rate, like during physical activity, if it's associated with a race, there might be some additional mental stress that comes with it. All of those will suppress appetite. Those are a given. Those fall under the umbrella known as hierarchy of needs. Your body does not care about digestion as much as it cares about ridding itself of internal heat, known as the exothermic or thermal regulation of the human body. What we're talking about here today was the loss of 6 pounds. Suppressing of appetite, we have ways that we can work around that. And I've spoken about it in previous videos, so I'd recommend that you definitely take a look at those. What I want to address is the concern associated with 6 pounds of loss, right? 6 pounds in 1 week, almost a pound a day. You know, hopefully you know, if you follow me for any period of time, that there's no way that you're going to drop a pound of body fat per day. So when we look at that excessive weight loss, we know it's not fat. We very rarely would see somebody cannibalize that much muscle tissue. There'll be other negative physical side effects if you were cannibalizing muscle tissue that quickly. Which leads us to the third variable, which would be dehydration. Now, when we look at that much of a loss on the scale, there's a couple other variables that we want to take into consideration. Number one, first and foremost, is are you under the influence of a virus and you don't even realize it? So remember when the appetite was suppressed, there's conditions that obviously can lead to that. High heart rate, high air temperatures, high humidity, all of those combined with stress associated with competing. But when your body is under the influence of a virus, a lot of times your appetite will be suppressed. So that could be subtly hidden behind the scenes without you realizing it. To me, the big red light was the excessive body weight loss. So the way that we circumnavigate that problem is we have our clients weigh themselves before and after every workout and in the morning and the evening. Now, for some of you, you may think that's overkill. I totally respect that. Unfortunately, when someone has a situation such as this arise, we need to have that type of information. Because I have seen people lose 6 pounds in one workout because they're extremely dehydrated. So that's why I say if you weigh yourself before and after every workout and in the morning and the evening, we have benchmarks that we can see what is this, when you're giving me a scale weight, what are we indexing it against? So I would highly encourage you, especially if you're using the Garmin. The Garmin has its own electronic scale, which all you've got to do is step on it every morning and evening. It reads the bottom of your foot, it pushes it to the Garmin watch, it gets uploaded to your server. Makes it very easy for me to see what kind of delta of change that we're seeing associated with your activity board. I want to loop back around though. When we're talking about excessive amounts of weight loss, please recognize that the only way that you can, especially when you see some of these so-called declarations that they'll drop body fat, they will promise you that some certain diet or some bar or some way of adjusting your intake of calories will guarantee a decrease of 5 to 10 pounds in a week. That's simply dehydration. So when you go back and you look at some of my earlier videos, if you're already a student of the fact that when you eat an edible carbohydrate, your body stores water as it converts an edible carbohydrate into stored sugar known as glycogen. Water retention is part of that chemical process. So all I've got to do is reverse that entire formulation. If I promise you that I'll get 5 pounds off of you on the scale, all I've got to do is have you not eat carbohydrates, you don't retain water, and therefore your scale weight will be lower, but unfortunately you'll also be dehydrated. A lot of people who don't consider themselves athletes go, well, who cares if I'm chronically dehydrated? I really like the way that I like the number that's on the scale, because your ability to think clearly is a byproduct of being properly hydrated. When you're hydrated correctly, you don't have headaches. When you have good proper hydration levels, the muscles can slide and glide, so it's much easier for you to be able to walk around. When you're properly hydrated, you can handle hot, humid conditions, you don't overheat. I could continue to rattle off all the health benefits associated with being hydrated because, like I said, a lot of people say, well, I'm not an athlete, why does it matter? Because your overall health and the way that you feel does matter. So I wanted to come back and loop around. Suppressed appetite, not abnormal. That kind of weight loss in a week, extremely abnormal. Now, in closing, the one thing I want to make sure I'm doing a good job of clarifying is we had already validated that this was not a dehydration issue by indexing morning over evening and then pre and post. What we did find, unfortunately, was this was the result of becoming ill, being under the influence of a virus. What we noticed was resting heart rate was going up. We saw a dip in the HRV. We noticed body battery wasn't bouncing back as much. So I want to make sure, especially for those of you that are new to this channel, we don't just take one number as the gospel. So like in this case, being down 6 pounds, that's a red flag, but what could be contributing to it? We went and looked at activity, looked at what was done, looked at the weight before and after, looked at morning over evening, 5 consecutive days, and then sure enough, we started seeing other things like irritable bowel. We saw other symptoms associated with the virus. Unfortunately, the virus did manifest itself, and we had better clarity. And that's why I wanted to share it with you. As I mentioned, if you're new to the channel, thank you so much. We do put out a video every day here on YouTube. So please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. That way you won't miss a video that we put out. Every day we do answer a question here on YouTube. So should you have a question, don't ever hesitate to send it to us. Contact@coachrobb.com. I appreciate your time here today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.